Well, and let me just say first, I think I went through these rules because so often, as you say, people hear around exercise all kinds of different advice, and often they come from gym rats. Eat a bunch of egg whites, drink chocolate milk after you work out, eat a bunch or drink a bunch of Gatorade. The list goes on of things you're supposedly supposed to do if you're working out. And I think often these things are not only not effective, but they can actually derail people, particularly if they're trying to lose weight or other things by adding calories. So what I've tried to do is sort of issue some guidelines here. Now, granted, everybody's different. So part of it depends on what your goals are. So somebody who's, a middle-aged woman is going to be different from a young man who's bodybuilding in terms of what their diet needs to be. And so, but nevertheless, there's some general principles I tried to sort of lay down for people to keep in mind. One is to get plenty of protein and to try to include protein at every meal. And, you hear about the importance of protein in building muscle, and it is important. But to spread, sometimes people end up getting all their protein or most of their protein, for example, at dinner. And it's important, I think, to sort of spread that out and get some protein at every meal. And that, protein sources are things like poultry, eggs, dairy, beans, soy, and then at the same time to go easy on the processed meat, red meat. It doesn't mean you have to never eat red meat, but it means to minimize that. So that's obviously one macronutrient to focus on is the protein. Number two would be the carbs. So here to go for complex carbohydrates rather than refined carbohydrates. So that means things like complex carbs would be fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and to try to minimize things like chips, cookies, crackers, sweets, those kinds of things that are refined grains, white bread. The third macronutrient, of course, fats. And here to go for the good fats, we all hear about the good fats, fatty fish, olive oil, nuts, seeds, avocado, things like that, and to de-emphasize saturated fats and trans fats. So those are the three macros. Those are just, and we hear those principles. Those are principles that apply to healthy eating, but they apply also when we're trying to eat in an optimal way for exercise. When it comes to hydration, water is your best bet. So we hear, as they say, about sports drinks, Gatorade, replacing electrolytes. That may be important for athletes, for people that are exercising for very long periods, particularly in hot conditions. But for the vast majority of us, people going to the gym for an hour or going for a walk or going for a bike ride, it's not necessarily necessary to have Gatorade or any kind of electrolytes to replace ones you've lost. So water is your best bet there. Fad diets, again, we hear these different diets. I talk about a lot about this in my previous book, Supersize Lies, and there's sort of all kinds of diets that people hear about when it comes to related to weight training and to the gym. But I think generally the idea here is to just focus on healthful eating and forget about diets with a bunch of rules. Not only are they not sustainable over the long term, but in some cases they can actually cause harm. When you're looking at ingredient lists, a general principle I like is that shorter is better on boxes, on food labels. And if it has a long list of unpronounceable ingredients, take it as a red flag.
Yeah, I'm gonna step in just a second and say, if it has no ingredient list, you're probably better off. Right. So you'll notice the tomato sitting right there at the farmer's market, the chicken, if you want to buy chicken from a butcher, particularly, no ingredients list. Doesn't need one. It's tomato.
I like that. Yeah, the best is zero ingredients, right? And so it has some ingredients on a box. Shorter is better. So that's an excellent point. And then when it comes to related to this, so you have the nutrition label, right? But then you also have marketing claims on packages. Things we all kinds of marketing buzzwords we see. Things like gluten-free, vitamin fortified, organic, multigrain, all these words. And studies show these can often lead people to falsely conclude that a food is more healthful, it's better for them, when in fact it's not. And so generally to ignore all of these claims and to look just at that nutrition label, look at things like calories, protein, added sugars, fiber, those are the things to look at into that ingredient list, as opposed to all of these sort of marketing buzzwords that you often see on the front of the package, to look beyond those. And then finally, foods that are often marketed for exercise, energy bars particularly, not to be fooled by this, because if you look carefully at that label, you'll find that many energy bars have lots of calories and in some cases as much sugar as a candy bar. And yet people will eat these after they exercise, think, oh, well, this is good. I need to get this refuel after I exercise by eating an energy bar because it has protein, or because it just seems like it's something that people who exercise should eat. And in fact, they can be eating unhealthy foods and adding a lot more calories to their diet more than they realize. So again, not to be fooled by these kind of, in many cases, these are highly processed as well. So I think that to sort of look beyond, again, that kind of marketing around these so-called exercise friendly foods.